his side. Sebastian Gorka, former advisor to Donald Trump, joins us right now here on Talk. Good afternoon to you.
Greetings, Julia. Wonderful to be back with you.
Lovely to talk to you. Now, we've not spoken for a while. I know you've spoken to Mike quite a lot. I mean, early hours and all that. Let's talk about Donald Trump and what's happening now, because we understand there was a phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin last week. The Kremlin are now saying it didn't happen. We're not entirely sure whether we should believe them on that. But the conversation, we understand, was basically the president-elect saying to the Russian president, don't escalate the war in Ukraine. And yet, at the same time, we understand that he's very keen, your old boss, to actually get rid of the war, de-escalate the war in Ukraine so much that he wouldn't actually be providing US military support and he would force Zelensky to the negotiating table. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I know exactly what's going to happen because my former boss has discussed it at almost every single one of the more than 250 rallies he held during the election. He will force both of these gentlemen to the negotiating table. He will tell the president in Kiev, look, it's tough, but you've got to recognize that certain things have to be sacrificed. Getting Crimea back is probably off the table right now. And he's going to tell Putin, look, if you think the last few years were bad, the aid given to Kiev is going to look like a picnic if you don't stop the bloodshed. President Trump wants one thing to happen, the fighting and the bloodshed to stop, and he will make sure both of those individuals come to some kind of ceasefire.
Now, I'm confused. So we're told he wants to end military aid to Ukraine, but he's basically saying to Vladimir Putin, I'm going to up military aid to Ukraine.
You're being told that by people who have no idea what they're talking about.
So he's basically saying, when he says he wants Putin to de-escalate, what does he mean by that?
He means that he wants the war to end. It's very simple.
And when you say the war ending, he means Vladimir Putin withdrawing. What would he, from your conversations with him and what he said on the stump, what would he regard and his aides, who were likely to join him in the West Wing in the White House, what would they regard as a fair and reasonable settlement? So Crimea. Russians get to keep Crimea. They've had it since 2014. What about all these cities in the Donbass region? What about the children?
Not appropriate. I'm not going to discuss those right now. It's absolutely inappropriate for me to discuss. I'm not going to give away the president's potential negotiating chips. I mean, this is horrific. We have main warfare with tanks, with rockets, with artillery happening in Europe, which only happened because President Trump wasn't in the White House. So he will end it. But
why did it only happen because Trump wasn't in the White House?
Because Putin was afraid of him. I mean, look. When was Crimea taken? Crimea was taken under Obama. When was the Donbass taken? Under Biden. This is why we re-elected him. For 4 years, we had no new wars.
Okay, remind me what Donald Trump did about freeing Crimea from Russian control during his time in office.
What do you mean? That's not his job. He doesn't. He's not the president of Ukraine.
He's the leader of the free world.
Let me tell you what he did. All right, because that question is just so stupid. We're not interventionists. We're not interventionists.
When you say we, you mean the Republicans, the Trumpists?
The America First platform. So here's a story, and this is declassified now. When we were in the White House, we informed the president that there are 300 Wagner Group mercenaries working for Putin, running around the Middle East, destabilizing it and threatening our troops. He said, what? He said, kill them and kill them all. In the Battle of Kasham, within 4 hours, 300 Russians working for Vladimir Putin were turned into red mist, right? Never happened before. Since the October Revolution of 1917, not even the great Ronald Reagan killed 300 Russian troops in one day. What was Vladimir Putin's response? Nothing. He crapped his pants. He didn't even hold a press conference. That's why there were no wars.
Right, I probably need to apologise for that language. Apologies for that language.
But, I think.
Okay, can we not say it again?
That.
Just do me a favour and not say it. Okay, you make your point there. So you can say, look, Donald Trump is going to be a strong man. He's going to talk tough, and at the end of the day, you've got the military might, the economic might in America to basically twist the arm of Vladimir Putin, and he will walk away from Ukraine, but he'll want to take some part of Ukraine. I just want to know, just finally on that issue, because lots more I want to talk to you about. Realistically, if America was invaded by, let's say Putin or China, or I don't know, the Mexicans or the Canadians in a different,
or the British,
the British. We're going back history. I mean, which territory in America would you be willing to give up?
You're being asked. This is really puerile.
It's not puerile.
It's totally and utterly puerile. Do you want the children to stop being bombed in hospitals, Julia, or do you want to talk about stupid theoretical? If America were invaded,
but it's not stupid and theoretical.
It's not analogous.
Because the Ukrainian people are fighting to protect their territory. Do you want the bombing to continue?
Do you want to have the bombing continue, Julia, or do you want it to stop?
I would like the bombing to stop.
That's the only thing that.
But I don't think it's going to happen. But here's the thing. I would like them to stop. I believe if the West showed a stronger willingness to stand up to Vladimir Putin, A, it wouldn't have happened in the first place. On that I agree. And B, they could stop it now. If the message goes out to Vladimir Putin...
Let's stop here. So do you want British troops to die in Ukraine? Is that what you're calling for?
I'm not calling for that, but I can see...
Well, then don't make up silly scenarios.
But if Vladimir Putin invaded any NATO state on his border... and he's saber-rattled about doing that, and many of those nation states are very fearful of that. The reason why we've got, by the way, new members of NATO as a result of that, then yes, British blood would be spilled.
Yeah, and Ukraine is not a member of NATO.
It is not.
You made a good point.
But yes, British blood would be spilled, because that would be our duty under the NATO treaty.
You made the most important observation. Article 5 of the Washington Treaty does not apply to Ukraine, period, end of story.
OK. We'll move on, only because I've got so much more to talk to you about. Lots of talk today about tariffs from the United States. Donald Trump, despite many people thinking the Republican being a free market party, very much a protectionist, talking about America first, got no issue with that. More countries should worry about their own people first. I accept that. But there are fears of a trade war. What is likely to be threatened, and what will the tariffs be on?
Oh, it's very clear. We do believe in free markets, but they have to be free and fair. If you're manipulating your currency, like China, if you're putting on 200–300% tariffs on American goods, you can't buy American cars in China. Why is that? Because it's impossible to sell them there. If that is what you are doing, if there is an unfair distortion of market conditions, then it's going to be tit for tat, and the president is going to make sure that American jobs are not only protected, but that American jobs are brought back to the US from Mexico, from China, and elsewhere. That's what it means. It means the American worker will be protected at the cost of those nations who do not believe in free markets that are fair.
OK. I mean, certainly we did see that under his first presidency, and very popular as well, indeed encouraging with tax breaks American companies to sort of offshoring their work and their hiring of workers and bringing it back to America. And I think that's something a lot of people will probably welcome here. What is UK likely to face? Because we know, you know, back when Trump was in office last time round, a lot of hopes there might be a trade deal between the UK and the US. You're our biggest trading partner here in the UK. Any chance of a trade deal, or are we likely to face some of those tariffs as well?
Absolutely. I mean, as I've said on, frequent occasions, the UK has a very special place in the president's heart for familial reasons, history, etc. But whatever happens, Lammy has to apologize first. Lammy can't just brush off as he just did. Oh, that was a few years ago. You can't call the man chosen by 74 million Americans last Tuesday a neo-Nazi sympathizer sociopath and expect relations between 10 Downing Street and the White House to be copacetic. I mean, that is inexcusable. Either he has to be fired or he has to apologize before January the 20th in the inauguration for there to be decent relations between our two great nations.
We understand that Donald Trump had a dinner with Keir Starmer and David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, just a few months ago, and apparently all convivial. Are you saying that Donald Trump has David Lammy not apologised yet, and is Donald Trump requiring a public apology?
Why would I say what I just said if he had?
Fair point. Fair point. Do you think you're going to get that apology?
Keir Starmer knows what he's doing, then he's going to order Lammy to apologise publicly.
So basically you're saying a trade deal to help British business, the British economy, a trade deal and not being subject to the tariffs which may hurt other parts of the world, that is going to be absolutely contingent on our Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, publicly apologising.
I never said that. Now you're putting words in my mouth. I said if the relationship should return to its proper place as quote-unquote the special relationship, then it won't be at that special place unless Lammy takes the requisite action or the Prime Minister does.
OK. Can I ask you just finally, we're 5 days on from Wednesday morning we woke up to the news that Donald Trump had likely and now shown to have won by a pretty good, solid landslide, not just the Electoral College, but the popular vote as well, the American presidency back, to watch extraordinary meltdowns by many on the Liberal left. I mean, absolutely losing their minds. It's been, I've got to be honest with you, hilarious to watch over here on this side of the Atlantic, even more extreme on your side of the Atlantic. What do you, as a Donald Trump long-time supporter and friend of the president-elect, what do you make and what does he make of those I suppose, meltdowns by the left?
Well, look, you just need to watch the 70-second clip of Brendan O'Neill on your show, which I used, which was superlative. Brendan understands why the American people, white, black, and brown, re-elected President Trump after 8 years of being called a Nazi, a white supremacist, facing complete political persecution by the courts. And the delicious thing is, the left, the Democrats, have no idea. When you have leading Democrats going on CNN saying, well, it's because black men are misogynists and they didn't vote for Kamala Harris, keep on digging that hole deeper. People want one thing, to be able to provide for their families to be safe, and to be allowed to be proud to be Americans, whether they're brown, whether they're white, whether they came as legal immigrants, as I did, or whether they were born here. The left has no capacity to understand what we did on Tuesday night, not only the Electoral College, but also the popular vote. The fact that that clip from CNN, when Jake Tapper goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? No counties? Kamala Harris didn't win one county in more votes than Biden. How is that possible?
Yeah.
Because the left has become a self-loathing pit of cultists, whether it's transgenderism, whether it's giving money to Iran, whether it's saying America is evil. It's like, the left has no idea why we won, and that's great, because we're going to trounce them again and again.
Well, this is the thing. Do you think they are even capable of learning the lessons of why they got it wrong? Because I've not seen any evidence of that yet.
There's not one pragmatist amongst them. Look, you don't have to like Bill Clinton. You know, having sex with 21-year-old interns in the Oval Office, not a nice thing. But at least he reined in the loonies. There's nobody. When the Democrat Party says, what do you mean borders? We don't need borders. 20 million illegals. That's great. Come on in. Come on in. When you've got lunatics like that and nobody says, excuse me, borders matter. And young girls shouldn't have their breasts removed in the name of transgenderism. That's diabolical. Nobody's doing that. It has become a cult. I was hoping that the trouncing would make them kind of like pause, look in the mirror and maybe say, you know what, maybe we need to dial it down. They're doing the opposite. They're ratcheting it up. That's how much of an absolute psychotic cult they are.
Well, on that note of agreement, actually, Seb Gorka, Sebastian Gorka, former advisor to Donald Trump,